Perfect. Got our robotic assistant's voice out of the way. We can begin. Welcome. Thanks for joining. My name is Steve. I'm head of programs here at Claw Social Leadership. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Anne Harrod.
Hello.
And Harrod is our director of programs. And today we're going to be sharing a bit more about our upcoming programs that are kicking off in the spring. Going to be talking about the key dates, what you can expect from the program. There's going to be time for questions as well. Also joined by alumni from our Emerging Leader program. We're going to be hearing from them about their experience too. So it's an opportunity for you to get information, ask questions, and then hopefully we may see you on our Emerging Leader program. In terms of our agenda for this quick half-hour session, we're going to tell you a bit about Claw Social Leadership. We're going to tell you about the Emerging Leader Program, also feature some of our shorter programs as well. If you're looking for something a bit shorter and less intensive, we'll be hearing from Neve as well. And then, of course, open to questions and answers at the end as well. I'm going to pass it over to Anne Harrod, who's going to tell us a bit about our beliefs at Claw Social Leadership.
Thank you, Steve. So just first of all, a little bit about Claw Social Leadership for those of you that might not be too familiar with us and our work. We are a charity that specialises in leadership development, and our mission is to provide social leaders with appropriate, affordable, and quality leadership development in order to reach our vision of a sector led with skill, efficiency, and ethical values. And in the social sector in particularly, the term leadership can be a bit of a contentious one, and not a term that everyone would necessarily apply to themselves. But we want to change that. And one of our core beliefs is that everyone is a leader, and the term leadership can be applied to and owned by formal and informal leaders alike. So we don't believe that leadership is restricted to formal or senior titles. The truth about leadership is that we're all doing it, and we're here to just help you do it to the best of your abilities. Another belief of ours is that leadership is a lifelong journey, and we know that you'll all be at different points on that journey. And our aim is to support you at every stage, which is why we've created a portfolio of different leadership development tools and programs. And we're here to meet you at whatever point you might be on at that journey. Obviously, this particular webinar is aimed at our emerging leaders, and we'll be talking a little bit more about what that means to us. But we also have a whole host of different offerings and opportunities, and we hope to be able to meet you where you're at now, but also continue to work with you and support you into the future as well. We also believe that leaders grow leaders, and that is a really important part of what we do in our programs. And whilst it is our job to teach you about the fundamentals of leadership and support you on your leadership journey, the truth is that you're going to learn more from one another than you will from us. And that's because you know what the reality is of being a leader in our sector, the good, the bad, and the ugly that go along with that. And we, as part of your program, will be encouraging you to share challenges and opportunities and support each other through kind of the bad times, but also celebrate each other in the good times as well. And we aim to connect you as a cohort so you can not only learn from each other during your program, but also into the future as well. And ultimately, as part of that drive, the social change that we all collectively want to see. So that's a little bit about our beliefs, and I suppose why we're here. In terms of this particular program and how we'll be looking to meet those beliefs with you over the course of your journey, or realise those beliefs. Our Emerging Leader program is a 9-month program, and it runs from mid-May to mid-March next year. And the program is designed for individuals who have gained at least 3 years of leadership experience. That might be paid, it might be voluntary, it might look different for each one of you. But essentially, if you've been leading projects, teams, volunteers, departments across any sector for the last kind of at least 3 years, then our Emerging Leader is designed for you. And Some of that might be formal or informal, but essentially what we're looking for are applicants that have been working for social purpose and are keen to develop themselves and drive and lead change. This particular program, our Emerging Leader program, just to give you a bit of a better sense of that, commonly caters for those that are managers, project managers, team leaders, senior managers, and heads of, if you're looking for kind of some titles in there. But as I said, we are kind of quite flexible to what that looks like. And we recognize that within our sector, that can mean a whole host of different things. In terms of the components of the program itself, as you can see here on the slide, there are quite a few different components. I'm going to be talking to a couple of them in more detail shortly. But we will, our program is a hybrid program, so it has a blend of online and in-person activity. It includes an in-person residential where we get you together at a location in the Midlands for 2 days and 1 night. And do get you to come together as a cohort in person, as well as do some learning activity there as well. It includes online learning modules that you can tap into at different points, and that you continue to have access to kind of beyond your program as well. It includes professional coaching. So we will pair you with a leadership development coach, and they will work with you one-on-one to help you with your leadership development goals. We also do something called the Luminous Spark Psychometric. So this is all part of helping you to better understand who you are as a leader, and then a workshop around that and thinking about how you can work best with those around you. And we get you talking about leadership and sector challenges in 2 different ways, really. We have action learning sets where you do that with the support of a peer group and in a facilitated action learning space, but also through your peer innovation challenge, where you get to look at some of the key challenges faced by the sector and then work collectively to try and come up and innovate around those. So again, helping you to work efficiently and drive social change as a collective. So those are some of the different program components. And what we do is work with you on the be clear about the time capacity that this will need. And you will, Steve's going to talk about kind of the dates around this in shortly. But my main point that I want to just sort of make clear is that we know that this is quite a time commitment for people, and we ask that you put into this program what you want to get out of it. So we'll work with you to try and manage that as much as possible, but also really asking for your commitment and to make the most of this opportunity. In terms of our program approaches, you can see a few of those here. Our program is essentially structured around our leadership development model. So worth checking that out on our website. And we essentially will have you start out by exploring know yourself, be yourself, look after yourself, and our concept around that, and self-reflecting on yourself as a leader and getting a better understanding of who you are as a leader and your drivers. Then we move you to assessing context and thinking about, now you know that about yourself as a leader, what does that look like in the context that you're working with? And then also applying this knowledge to working with and through others. So you'll be encouraged to, as I said, tackle some of the challenges facing the sector as a collective through your action learning sets and the peer innovation challenge. But we'll also be getting you to exploring kind of learning more about leadership through our learning days, through a mixture of live classrooms, online modules, through your residential, and working with you on what your leadership development goals and plans are as well. And then finally, there's that important part of the peer learning and the network that you will get from being part of our program. As I said, not only just on program, but also hopefully into the future as well. I'm now going to hand back over to Steve.
Right. So program schedule, you can see here, we're beginning on the 14th of May. as a welcome session, and that really is dedicated to just giving you a bit of a rundown about what you can expect from how the program's going to run, and of course, welcomes and introductions to you and the rest of the cohort as well. Week after that, we're jumping into your first learning day, which will really be a kind of entry-level explanation to how we think about social leadership. Then you'll be beginning your Discover Live classroom, number 1 and number 2, and that will go alongside some of the self-guided online learning that you'll be doing. We then have the residential, which we put kind of as early as possible into the program to make sure that you're kind of meeting face to face with each other early on into the program, where you'll begin your peer innovation challenge, which Emma Harrod spoke about briefly. And then kind of post residential, we'll pause for the summer. So there's no engagement with the program at all over August to give everyone a break. And the same over the winter break as well. But what there will be drop-in sessions, which are dedicated, carved out time for you to get together with your program facilitators and the groups that you'll be working in your peer innovation challenge to work on those peer innovation challenge projects. And to also just get general support from your program directors with anything that you might need. And then we'll be rounding out the program with a celebration event on the 17th of March. So that is the program schedule. And of course, after this webinar, we'll be sending around more details with that program schedule included. What we're going to do now is pass over to Niamh Graham. Niamh Graham was a participant on one of our emerging leader programs previously. We're really lucky to have Niamh come along today and just let us know how she found the emerging leader program and how it supported her going forward. So Niamh, thank you. Over to you.
Hi everyone. Just gonna caveat this with the fact that I am recovering from a cold. So if I go on mute for a few seconds to have a little coughing fit, please know that I'm still here. I'm just enjoying the lovely January experiences. But yeah, thank you to Stephen and Garrett for bringing me on because my experience with CLAW was really, really beneficial. So I'm deputy CEO of a small charity in Kensington and Chelsea, and we do a lot of work around grant giving, capacity building, and networking. And so my entire job is really about empowering other people and supporting them in their leadership and their growth in their charity and what they're doing and how they can create like a sustainable sector. However, I'd noticed that, coming in as an intern and then moving to deputy CEO within about 3 years, I didn't really feel that I was equipped with the skills that I needed to be an effective leader. And whilst my team might have said something else, I just didn't really feel really empowered and supported in that journey. And so that's why I really chose CLAW, because I wanted to have an opportunity to build on that and really look at leadership as a holistic journey rather than just being some key like skills that you need. And I think CLAW was really able to provide that because for me, having a cohort of us who were all in really different roles all across the country, really different experiences and really different people as well. It helps to kind of, I suppose, broaden what I thought of leadership and how it can be best placed and what works for people and what doesn't. So for me, like one aspect that I really enjoyed was the Luminous Spark exercise. I am quite an outgoing and creative person, and I think it comes across really clearly. But for me, that means that in leadership, I'm really like blue sky thinking and I'm looking at creative options and doing things like this. And so one of my weaknesses at times is trying to go back to maybe like traditional methods of doing things and balancing out what are really creative ways with also more logical ways. And so the Luminous Spark exercise is kind of like one of those like personality questionnaires that you do, but without all the like rigid aspects of those questionnaires that you do. This one's a lot more fluid and it shows you that whilst you can be really people focused, you can also need that alone time and have moments of like being introverted. And so to have that as an overall experience helped me identify what I was lacking but also was really good to bring back to my team and kind of have a look and see what they felt they were strongest in and what they felt they were weakest in, so that, our entire team complements one another, which, I finished the course in over the summer, so about 6 months ago or so now. Um, and in that, we've gone through a lot of recruitment, and I can say that it has kind of helped us think, what as a team are we missing? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What can we bring together so one that we all complement one another? So I found that really helpful. And I also found the action learning sets to be really helpful. So like I was saying before, um, we were in a cohort of loads of different people, a lot of people from, working in health, and like the social sector within health and well-being, some within children, within nature, some consultants, smaller and larger charities like national and regional ones as well. So we had a real mix of experience, and skills and knowledge. And in the action learning set, she'll put in a group and someone comes up with a dilemma that they might be facing, like in their professional life. And all you do is you go around and you ask people open questions so that they're able to kind of think through whatever questions you might have about that scenario. And it gives you an opportunity to, if maybe you might be dealing with a staff member that isn't performing and you're unsure why, you have somebody ask you questions to really kind of dig out what would be your best response to working with that staff member and working in a way that works for you, or any other questions they might have. And I had a couple of dilemmas of myself and going through it. Everybody asks a question, you have a time to kind of talk through it, what you think your response would be. And then it's like a really safe, non-judgmental space where you're really just able to kind of theorize and problem solve whatever issue you're coming across. And I found those to be really, really helpful as well. Because not only are you going through your own scenarios, listening to other people's, you're like, oh, actually, I had a situation like that happen to me like last year. And if somebody asked me that question, I feel like I would have been able to respond to that situation a bit more appropriately. Or, it kind of helps to prepare you for what might come in the future, or like another scenario that you might reach to. So I found those to be really, really helpful. And then the whole course, you're learning more how to think strategically, how to advocate, how to collaborate, and all of those skills I personally think make a really good leader, because you don't want to only have one strong skill set of, maybe you're a strategic thinker. You do want to be a collaborator. You do want to be someone that advocates for people across whatever sector you're working in. And we all work in the social sector, so we will have this kind of innate drive to support and help people. And I found that was like a really cohesive element. So overall, I found my experience with Claude to be really, really beneficial. It came at a really good time for me. I'm still new in my leadership journey, so I feel like I'm quite flexible and figuring out where things are, where I sit, and that's really the benefit of it being an emerging leaders, because it gives you the opportunity to decide right now who you want to be and where you can go in the future. But I do really agree with what they said earlier, and that you will only get out of it what you put in. And I think for me, the first couple of months came at a really busy time work-wise. And so I wasn't able to put in the amount of effort that I knew I wanted to. But then when we moved kind of past the residential, things in my work life kind of balanced out a little bit more. So I was able to be more consistent with my reading, with my actions, pull that through. And I think my learning is, looking back, I definitely, if possible, I should have spent a bit more time at the beginning, just kind of getting those foundations in, because it was just a busy work time. But that being said, my whole cohort was really flexible. Our facilitators were really flexible, and everybody really understood and saw where we were coming through. So I hope that's a nice overview as to my experience. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Neve. Thanks for sharing. Neve's going to be sticking around at the end for questions and answers. So if you've got any questions for her, you can definitely ask them then. So moving on, if you're considering applying to the Emerging Leader Program, like Anne Harrod said earlier, you don't have to be kind of have a full-time role in the in an organization. You can be a volunteer, you can be working part-time, but generally the application criteria is that you're working for a for-purpose organization that includes, charities, social enterprises, CICs, and not-for-profit organizations. Program is aimed at leaders with at least 3 years of leadership experience. However, this isn't a very rigid bracket, and if there are some kind of circumstances you want to discuss around this, we can definitely continue the conversation after the webinar. And of course, it's important as well that you have an interest in using your leadership skills and knowledge to help make your organization and the world a better place. That is really key as well. If you're listening to this and thinking, wow, that is a huge amount of time, a big commitment for me, maybe something a bit smaller is preferable. We do have some shorter courses available. But Management Fundamentals, which we're beginning on the 19th of May. That really is it's a 7-week course, really gets down to the foundations of management. So as it moves away from leadership and really thinks about the practicalities of being a manager. It's perfect if you've just come into a kind of role where you're managing for the first time, or you've been in a role managing for a year or two now and you haven't really had any formal training. That course really is for you. And then we've got our Discover program as well, which is 4 weeks, 4 modules, and it really is just an entry level into how we think about leadership, what social leadership is. And it's worth noting that course is included in the Emerging Leader program. And we've got three different programs of Discover happening throughout this year. So in April, June, and November. It's worth noting as well that Management Fundamentals and Discover are accredited by the Institute of Leadership. So if you complete those courses, you will gain a associate member grade from the Institute of Leadership, which comes with post-nominals. So you can have some letters after your name if you join those courses and complete them. And we've also got a Find a Coach service as well. So if you want to get any coaching, we've got a suite of coaches that are really experienced in coaching charity leaders available on our website as well. So there really is something for everyone, depending on what your appetite for commitment is. And lastly, a thank you. I think we can move on to some quick fire questions. I'll stop sharing. If you've got a question, feel free to unmute yourself, and I'll just check the chat and see if we've got anything in there as well.
Can I just jump in?
Of course.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm just wondering how many, what's the numbers that you have on the course? How many participants?
We aim to kind of have 30 participants in our courses. I would say on average though, we probably have around 25. So it's a large group, but it's not large enough so that you're going to get lost in quite a big cohort and not get to know everybody.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to take yourself off mute or put those in the chat if so.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry, can't find the raised hand. It's just quite a practical question on the application. I know you ask for people to answer 2 kind of key questions, and I was just wondering, is there like a word count or anything when you're filling in that application for what you can say?
Yes, there is a word count. Not looking for huge amounts of detail. I would say 100 to 200 words is probably sufficient for those questions there. And usually, if there's any doubts when we're assessing the applications, we'll just give you a call if we need to fill in any gaps or anything like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to build on that, Rachel, one of the key things that we're looking for in the application is that a sense of why this is the right time for you. So again, kind of comes back to that. Is it going to be something that you're really going to be able to get the benefits of this from? As Neve was saying, there is that element of one of the things I think to help with making sure that you can do that is we would recommend that if you are thinking of applying this, you make your manager or CEO, senior person in your organization aware, and maybe, asking for the opportunity to carve some time out in your, within your capacity for it, so you can really make the most of it. Also trying to avoid sort of, with sessions going straight into another one, so you can actually sort of think and preparing or ahead of a session, so you can kind of really prepare yourself and go into it and not feel like you're on the back foot. But we'll give you a few sort of tips and tricks for how we can support you in that and things that other people have done. But that manager support or support from your colleagues is also really helpful, I think, in that. Any other questions from anyone? Oh, yes, I saw. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, yes.
You can, super. I just wanted to check that the beginning of the programme is that the Discover programme that is one of your separate programmes? So the meetings in May and June are very much on the self-reflective model, which is what I think Neve said she didn't necessarily have the time at the start of the programme to sort of do the input that with retrospect she might have wished to do.
Yeah, the start of the programme, we sort of are focusing on that self-reflection piece, which is helped through our Discover programme. There's quite a few exercises within that, and then you have your live classrooms. There's also your learning day of just bringing you all together to welcome you on board and kind of get you on the front foot with the programme as well. So yeah, that's where we start with that piece. There is because some of those materials are online as well, there is the opportunity to sort of go back into some of that and go over it at a later time in the programme too. But it does feel, if anyone is familiar with our Discover programme, that's how we sort of kick off things with your programme.
Thank you.
Claire, I think I saw you maybe come off mute as well just before. Did you have a question?
I did. It was just in terms of continuing from about the application, and it's a good steer to have a conversation with your manager. Would you be looking for sort of actual a reference or something from them, or from some input into the application form? A quote or feedback or something?
No, we don't ask for it because we recognise that some people, their team structures are different, or they might be self-funding this, whatever it might be. So it's not a kind of necessity as part of that. As I said, I think it's really helpful to have that support and buy-in from your manager. But the application is more from you as an individual, showcasing why this is the right time, but also that this programme is going to be right for you as well. So we ask you a bit about your leadership sort of needs and priorities, so we can make sure that this is a good match. Because again, we recognise that there is a cost to this programme. It's not one of our funded programmes, and we want to make sure that it's the best fit for you as well.
Excellent, thanks.
I'm conscious that we're just beyond time, so we will stay on for any further questions if anyone has them. But if you don't, then do feel free to email us if you've got any questions. We'll be sending you the slides, and we'll also be keeping an eye on hoping that you apply for our programme. Steve, do you want to just share when the deadline is for applications for this one, just before people go?
Believe off the top of my head the early bird deadline for emerging leader is the 10th of February. And if you apply before the 10th of February, the cost will be 1,995. And then the deadline after that is the 10th of March. And that'll be the full price, which is 2,595. I'll put a link in the chat to our website where you can find more information about the price.
Thank you, and thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Everybody.